Lovely family. Today we're going to be doing something special. Welcome to Cooking with Abba. Today we're going to make some gakomi, yes, Kenkey, and fancy style with some small Mpatoa fresh tilapia from the sea. And I'm going to be doing that with some seafood as well, like shepe, like that. Fancy girl, and no more day. So there's going to be some fried baby tilapia, some octopus, fried sea snail, fried shrimp, and of course, it was also served with some corned beef, pear, fresh pepper, fried egg, and some onion by the side. So for this recipe, it's basically from corn, and you use the corn husk as well as the corn dough. Yes, so you need to have a fermented corn dough, and then you have corn husks as well. This you can get it from the market. Those who sell Ebru, the fresh corn or the dried corn, they usually sell the corn husk in the local market in here. So you need to cut off the, should I say the connector or the mid part, the hard part. So you need to be able to get the main leaves there. These are usually dried husk in there. Now, what I did was to wash it twice, one with plain water, and then to also wash it with apple cider vinegar. If you don't have it, it's not compulsory. You can use the normal water and wash it twice or three times, and you are good. Or you can just use even salt to wash it. I used the apple cider vinegar to kind of clean the leaves, and then to also make it as neat, how do I call it, less of bacteria, because over here it's always exposed to, should I say, the air, which has stuff in there, dust and all those things. Then I'm going to do my aflata, or the binder for the corn, and then the ones I'm going to mix. So it's always good to divide your dough into like three parts, one part for the aflata and then the other two parts for the corn dough. And one thing about this is that when you're doing the aflata, the salt you need, everything has to go in there, because you can't go and add any extra salt once it is done. And I realized one thing: if you're using the white corn, and the white corn doesn't increase so much or expand so much, and so you can do the one part to three part. But if you're using yellow corn, sweetheart, it is not like that though. You can do one part to like five parts of dried corn, else you're going to have troubles in there. So just check the description button for the measurements for white corn, for yellow corn, especially if you're in this part of the world. So you're going to prepare this like you do etil, by just having it on fire, and then just, I can say, cheap benkuno. So I'm just going to mix this and get it to be as cooked as possible. And as I'm doing that, you're going to have to be mixing it. It's the heat that is going to let it cook up. And one beauty is that when it's done, you can smell it. The scent or the aroma changes. The next thing that you see change is the color. Yes, so you realize the color also changes. And for me, I also check for the consistency. If it's dropping beautifully all together, that means it's good enough in there. Now, one thing I realized was, because I placed it in very hot, it kind of melted the whole paste I had in. So I had to end up adding more and more of the dried corn in there. So one thing you can also do is that you can let it cool down halfway before you introduce it. That is one way to go about it. However, the positive thing about putting it in hot and mixing it together was that it gave me the opportunity to kind of knead the mixture. It's like with the frame with my hands, as you can see. That also helped, made it more consistent. Into one area, but once a boom fine, like well, feel say we're in kind of So once I was done, I guess let it sit for like some 10-20 minutes, so that everything would form beautifully, because corn absorbs water. Then when I was done, I just took the leaves and then I molded it in there. Mind you, this was my very first time, and it was fun and it was interesting in there. So you just need the leaves. One thing I realized is, get leaves that are big enough. If you get small leaves, especially if you're a starter, it can be very, very troublesome. So once it goes in, you're supposed to make sure you close the end at the bottom and the top. The bottom, initially, I was having an issue with it. For the top, most important, when you're done, you just have to like squeeze it together, and then you find a hole or a space and you push it in there. The bottom, I was struggling with it till I found an easy way to go about it. So the first mode was it, but then later on, I just realized that, well, I just need to do a portable scoop in there, leave enough space at the base, which I can easily fold back into it with my thumb. That made it easy. So I just screw it up. Then I use my index finger to just push it in. Then the top part you kind of, so I say screw, over finchim kakra. Now they are pet corner beer a kind of home. Now they are sheep. So you just do the same thing, repeat it. As you do, you perfect. Then when you are done, just make sure that you're at the same. You have some of the leaves down there so that it doesn't get stuck or bent to the pan. Because sometimes you forget yourself, the water will go out and then the thing will start burning or something. So once that goes in, arrange the Kenkey. You can let it lie flat. And yes, it's to still cook. Don't be bothered about that. Then you put enough water around it and then put it on fire. Now, in the olden days, they used to use polythene to cover it up, but that's not healthy. So I use the face towel. If you have a white towel or a white, something which is thick and heavy, you can use it to cover it. If you're using a dried face towel, and also so it's risky, but if you make it moist, it would easily trap the heat in there for you as well. So once that goes in, I just cover it up and I let it cook. And I was checking this. Honestly, I cooked this for 5 hours because Charlie, I don't know, urgent you. One month you are so the yellow corn, because it increases a lot. When I was done, like I baby. So the truth is that you'd have to be checking. And I use a napkin on top to also to trap the heat because the lookout that is saying sometimes there's a bit of space out there. So some of the air may be going. So this was it. So if you want to eat Kenkey, it makes sense why when they are cooking Kenkey, they always cook it at dawn, usually around 3 p.m. or something, 3 a.m. They'll put it on, and then in the morning, maybe by 7 or 8, it's already cooked. Yes, because it takes a long time to cook. So you have to be making sure that you check it in there. And when you are putting water in, make sure that it is hot water and not cold water. You don't want to spoil the heating process, which is going on in there as well. So that is the main trick to do your Kenkey. Make sure you are flat. I use the proportions in the description bottom, especially if you are in this part of the world. Make sure that you get good leaves to also work with. Make sure that your salt and everything goes in on time, and then make sure that when you're doing the arrangement, just make sure that it's just not occupying so much space. Everything can fit in there, and then constantly be checking at least every 30 minutes or 1 hour. Go and check if the water level has gone down and add more hot water to it as well. And most importantly, make sure that it is overly soft before you put it off, because once it cools down, it's going to firm up. So as for Gan Kenkey, it's hard for you to overcook Gan Kenkey. But if you undercook it, it will become rock and very hard for you to eat as well. So of course, I ate this with some Mpatoa. Yes, this is baby tilapia. It was freshly caught from the lagoon. And see how they are dangling in there. Even when you're moving the inside and things, they are still dangling. So usually at the lagoon side, you have the women who help you. They will take out the inside parts and then cut off the teeth part, so that when you're eating, it doesn't cut your mouth. And then the inner part, the tummy part, where the poo and things are, sometimes it can be very bitter, so they take it away from you. And because it's fresh, it was all jumpy in there. So once I come home, usually I just wash it about 3 times, minimum 3 times, just to help reduce the how do I say, the blood around it. And then I press the gill part to remove the saliva in there. You finish and then your tilapia won't taste too good. Or like, even if you put it down, it would not take too long to get spoiled. And it can taste a bit funny as well. So if you want a very good taste, make sure that you move the inside part, the stomach part, by making a cut and pulling it out. And then make sure that when you're washing, you wash the gill of all the saliva in there as well. So yes, I washed that off twice to doing that method. And once I'm coming to fry, what I need most is my salt and a little bit of pepper. pepper gives you that spicy kick in there. So powdered pepper will give you that dried kind of vibe, but then it's going to still taste good. Sometimes what you can also do is to use fresh pepper. You can blend your pepper, ginger, garlic, onion, and then put it around it with your salt as well. That also works. Just that would have a bit more of water drained around it when you're done, but that's okay. Because when I used to, at a point, I was selling a bit of this seafood, and that was what I was doing, and that makes you get very tasty seafood and good markets as well. Now for my pepper sauce, I have some tomatoes. These were a bit frozen. That's why your tomatoes looks a bit soft. Then I had with onion, pepper, my salt. I just blend it and bah, I am done. Because I'm going to use it with my Kenkey. I didn't make it overly smooth. Yes, so sometimes save yourself. These days tomatoes can go on and off. So when it's in season, when you buy, you can freeze it. When you want to use it the day before, just take it out the night before and let it be in the fridge. By the next day, it would have thawed beautifully and you get your good tomatoes. Don't forget, garbage in, garbage out. If you put good fresh tomatoes in the freezer, when you take it out, you get good ones as well. Then when you want to make a pepper sauce, just add your pepper, which you can also wash and freeze, which I've taught on the channel, how to handle your vegetables as well. Then you can work with it. So I also did it with some seafood fried egg. So yes, this is my lobsters, baby lobsters, which went in, and then my pusinam, which is my cuttlefish, that also went in there. Then I also had the shrimps. So all of them, I added salt and I added the pepper with a bit of local spices in there. So these had a bit of local spices in there. You can check the description button for the spice mix for these. That gives it that, you know, that thing. Seafood, dear, you need to give it some good seasoning to get you great taste. Then I just mix it up, and then because of the shrimp, I'm going to fry it directly. I didn't bother to cook it or anything. Yes, those ones I'm going to fry directly. But for your octopus and then your lobsters, you want to pre-cook it. Your pusinam or your cuttlefish, or if you want to use squid, it's always good to pre-cook before you fry. That makes it reduces the chances of you running, especially for those of us who have a bit of funny stomachs. So this one, because it's just a small batch, within 5 minutes, is virtually cooked. Now, how do you know it's cooked? You realize that for the pusinam or the cuttlefish, when it's cooked, the skin kind of turns white, or the dark parts, they all go off it. And then for your lobsters, when they are ready, the color changes to bright orange. That is one trick to find out whether it is cooked or not. So because it's a small batch, and I just took it out. Then I had some sea snail. Yes. So this one was fresh. I took out the shell part, and then washed it, and I placed it in the fridge. And because it was very fresh, you know, the slimy part and everything will be in there as well. So this half of it that went in, I added more of the spice because this actually needs more spice, else you won't feel anything when you're eating it. And because of the sliminess that is in there, when you start cooking, it's going to start foaming. You may have to take the lid off and then let it cook. And you need to cook it till it becomes as soft as you would want before you fry as well. So for the lobsters, the head, you don't really need it. There's no food in the head. So I just took the heads off, although they give you more taste and way as well. So I ended up removing the shell of the lobsters as well, because those are parts you don't really need it. You can eat it for the calcium bits, but then my main focus here was the main food of flesh in there. So you just have to make an opening. I realized when I made the opening in the middle, the incision at the middle, it was a bit troublesome to remove the meal part. So at the end of the day, what I did was I just made the incision at the side instead. That made it very easy to actually take the meal or the food, the main fleshy part out of it. So this was what I used to make my fried egg for the Kenkey. This is like spread yourself Kenkey. Personally, I don't eat Kenkey on the regular, because when I eat Kenkey, Charlie, if I'm buying it outside, the boka, because I end up buying everything some. So usually when I want to eat Kenkey, like, it's this pour yourself moment. And shout out to my girls, Presla and Abby. Yes, we had our own experiences with Kenkey. around, and it was always memorable having Kenkey in there. So yes, the sea snail, like I said, you have to cook it till it will shrink in size first and foremost to like half of the original size if it's well done. And you want to make sure that by the time you turn it off the fire, it is not foaming anymore. The sliminess is off. That makes you know that it is cooked and ready to eat. Seafood can be very funny with your stomach, so you want to make sure that whenever you're handling seafood, it is well done. Else you eat and then you end up running so much. So once I'm done, I'm just going to begin the main chichos. So I have my egg, which that was about 4 or 5 fresh eggs. Then I had some vegetables in there. Then I added my salt. Then I poured it into my pan with oil in. Then of course the lobsters went in there. And because I was frying it big and heavy, I just pushed. As it's forming, you're pushing it so I can create space for the excess ones in there. And you want to cook this till it's well cooked. Ghanaians, we like our eggs very well cooked. We don't want any runny eggs. But if you like runny eggs, you can just do it to your preferred preference. Yes. But then, Ghana for the brown kakra. So as is to your preference, you just take it off, and that is my lobster fried egg recipe, special one, only for your eyes only. So once the oil heats up, of course, I'm going to just fry the cuttlefish. And cuttlefish, octopus, squid, they can be splashing all over and they can hurt you. So like you can check my octopus video, how to season and fry it. It's also there. And I've also taught how to bake it as well. So as I'm frying that one, I just cut the sea snails in there. Now, the inner part is already lined because that is how they grow and that's how they have the sliminess and all those things in there. So I just use the scissors to cut it. And once the octopus is brown enough, is well cooked, I just take it off. Then I put the sea snails in there. You don't have to cover your sea snails. Don't be splashing all over, poop, poop, poop. Yeah, they are just gentle to fry. And for them, you have to just be turning each side. And you want to cook it for it to crisp up a bit, the outside part. But the inside will still be a bit gummy, a bit chewy. If you overly fry, the inside is going to be overly gummy. So because it's already cooked, you just want to fry just a little to get a nice color out there. Then it's good to go. Then once you're done with that, you can also fry, putting your fresh shrimps into your oil. Then you fry it and then you go. You can also watch the channel for how to fry your shrimps if you are new to frying shrimps as well. Then obviously once I'm done, my last thing that goes in is the Mpatoa or the baby tilapias. I fry this last deliberately because first and foremost, when you fry shrimps take quite amount of oil, but shrimps also make your oil smell good. Yes, but then the baby tilapias sometimes, because of their dark color, they can discolor your oil. And octopus doesn't take much oil, but then it's faster to cook. The snails don't take much oil too. So I did those before I did the shrimps for a particular reason. That was to save my oil and then to also make it smell good and preserve the look, even as I was still working with it. Now, once your fish is frying, you just have to just be turning it to make sure that every part cooks. And make sure that when you put it in, you don't just put it in and start stirring. You tear it apart. When you put it in, let it cook and firm up well enough before you turn it. And then once every side is well cooked and is brown, you can just take it out. Mind you, deep frying is the best. You don't do shallow frying with these ones, else it will become something else. So do deep frying for your shrimps, do deep frying for your mpatoa or your baby tilapias. So once that is done, obviously the Kenkey, it's time for us to serve it. That's why I should put some gansong in there. So yes, the skin was in there. You realize the water I had was small, and that was one problem I had. So that's what I was telling you, that you need to have enough water in there. You realize this one has a bit of brown base. That was the part that was close to it. There was one point I almost forgot to put water, and I almost got disaster. So yes, once that is done, you can just take what you need and you can serve it. And look at how such it was. It was like the Kenkey was feeling. So this is about Kenkey. I want you to really try this at home. Like healthy, fleshy kenkey. And because it's yellow corn, you get a bit more of fiber, more huskiness, and there's more texture in there as well. And mind you, when you are done, if you can't eat all that day, it's okay. You can leave it in your dad's saying it won't do anything. You can even keep it in for like 2 days or something. Just make sure that every day you add in a bit of water if you want to heat it. And you can also keep it in your fridge or your ice chest. Nkitinkiti and fermenting them and send them. So once I was done, this one, it was called Serve Yourself Buffet. You just eat and sleep. This one, don't try working when you're done. So you ate the kenkey with, of course, the baby tilapia, which was fried, the octopus or posna, or how do you call it? Cuttlefish with the fried sea snails, and then the shrimps. They were all part of it. Then the pepper sauce was also well done. Some small onion beef for the side garnishing and for the chewing. You know, we Kenyans, we like that part. Then my lobster fried. Hey, that was also in there. But it's also served with some corned beef, some pear, and of course, all of this was for your serve yourself moment. You have to try this as well. If you did like this video, do well to subscribe, do well to like, do well to share, do well to leave a comment. Let us know how you went with it, or whether you liked it or not, what you want us to work on, what you want us to do more on. It's very important. So till I see you in the next food video, do live life to the fullest, be joyous, be merry, and make sure you let every food moment count. Lots of love for my team and I. Mwah.